How's it going, bros? Top of the morning to you. My name is PewDiePie. Welcome to Atypical Life's channel. Today we will be interviewing Hadley and Joe Brenan.
Oh wow, okay, I said that without even moving my mouth. Fantastic. Welcome everybody to the channel. You probably saw my video recently about what I would do with the next era of Doctor Who. This is
I
gonna be...
watch your bullshit.
Mate, without me no one would watch your bullshit.
Sorry, how many subscribers are you on? Joe, you're not allowed to answer that.
Joe's the real one out here. But in that video I discussed a few of the themes I'd like to see in the new era. I discussed casting and this sort of thing. But then I realised I have a couple of friends who are quite opinionated, who have an idea of what the next era should look like. Looking at you, Curtis. Now, this is going to be quite informal. We're going to be just talking generally about the show and what we would like to see out of the new era. And some people might have a full 5-page pitch.
Yeah, I have Google Docs open already on the other screen.
Oh my days. So, just because we've talked a little bit about our ideas first, me and Curtis, Joe, would you have any highlight points that you'd like to see from the next era? Anything that stands out to you that isn't in the show right now, maybe?
I think what is probably the most important thing they have to do is to just get it back on yearly. I think whatever you need to do as far as like episode length or episode numbers in a series, like if it has to be a 5-episode series or a 6 or 8-episode series, I think that's fine as long as it's every year, because people will lose interest, and the only people that won't lose interests are the Doctor Who fans, who they don't really need to do anything to keep. Like, I don't think we should be pandered to as much as we are currently being pandered to. I mean, as a collective, I think get that general public back on board, and I think the best way to do that is to keep it in the public eye, because you wait 3 years for something, you wait 2 years. You've moved on. You're watching Stranger Things now.
It's a good point. I said to you the other day, Josh, like, I think Jodie has served the longest as the modern Doctor, but has the least amount of episodes in comparison to that time. Because, Eccleston only had the 1 season, but he was only contracted for the 1 season. Whereas Jodie's been the Doctor for 5 years now.
I think it will be 5 by the time.
It will have been 2017 to 2022. Which is, I think, exactly the same as what Tennant did, as in come in at Christmas, leave at some point in 5 years later.
It's insane, really, just how much it's been off. I know there was a bit of that in the Capaldi run. I think between series 8 and 9 there was a bit of a dip, wasn't there? There
was. Maybe was it 2016 there was nothing. I think that was 9 and 10.
Yes,
we had that hiatus there, and I don't know why they said it was like there was a load of national moments. So I guess Brexit and things like that were kind of too much for the general public to take that and Doctor Who. But yeah.
Watching Doctor Who's difficult.
It's just like, it's too hard.
Which is funny, because then the very next season they started taking the mick out of all of those things. They incorporated all of it into the stories.
Doctor Who would never be political. How dare you suggest such a...
Ever.
Not until Chibnall showed up and invented politics.
He invented women as well. Like,
awful man.
But no, that is a very good point, because when speaking with other people, they've said they've wanted it to be more serialised, they've wanted it to only have 4 episodes a year, I think someone I was speaking to said, but just generally get it on the television screens and people will watch.
I think it's got to be good as well, but I think you've got a lot more chance of grabbing people if it's just something that you can always rely on, which
I think
is what it used to be.
We all agree, as a box standard, our answers are, first, it should be good.
Yeah.
Should we all just collectively agree that's part of our answer?
Why didn't they think of that when they were making the Chibnall era?
Why didn't Warris think of that in the first place? When we were making Doctor Who, they should have made it good.
Yeah.
Step 1, make it good.
I can imagine just watching it years later going, oh, I can't believe it. How did I forget?
How could I forget to make it good?
Oh, we added all this other stuff, but we forgot the good.
Yeah. Only then can Chibnall truly be good. No, it's a general point because they boosted the production value quite a bit during the Chibnall era. You know, direction looks all cinematic, and they seem to actually go to quite nice locations.
Yeah.
But without the substance, without the good scripts coming in, I guess, how do you balance that, and how do you take it seriously?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think the cinematic nature of the Chibnall era. I mean, it's hardly relevant, but I think it's very much like a like, I guess maybe like a YouTube video that's trying to look like a film. That's what it seems to me. Like, it's like, we're going to do close-ups, we're going to do lens flares, and we're going to oversaturate it, and we're going to pretend it looks like a movie.
Doctor Who is very pretty, but does Doctor Who need to be pretty? It's not got a terribly good habit of being pretty in the past.
No. Like, what is the most visually appealing classic series episode? Can you even think of it? And does it matter
Marco
to the club?
Polo.
Okay. You're only saying... Look, if you got the actual footage of that... If you...
Prove it then. Prove it. Show us.
Oh, that's it. Can't
I'm sure it would be. I'm sure it would look great.
Yeah.
there are some of those classic ones that's like, this is probably a really visually interesting story, like Celestial Toymaker.
I really want, beside the point, I really want them to animate that, because I think there's so much that they could do with doing Celestial Toymaker in animation.
Yeah.
Like making it all trippy and like Doctor Strange, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to change a few things here and there. Yeah. But
they did that with Fury of the Deep, though. They've changed quite a few visual things anyway with Fury from the Deep.
I think visually...
They added a helicopter chase.
They added it in?
Yeah, they added in a helicopter chase.
For what reason?
It's meant to be a bit where the Doctors escape in a helicopter, and that's just it. But now they've got like these giant like kaiju sea creatures erupt from the ocean, and the Doctor's diving between them and stuff.
Amazing. I'd say though, Enlightenment as well as a pretty good visual one in the classic series. At least what they were trying to do. But no, I don't.
No, I think going forward, the visual style of Doctor Who isn't something that should really be a consideration for any showrunner. I think that it should. I don't think it. Yeah, no, it should come last. Genuinely, like, just like, oh, how are we going to make it look? I mean, obviously, you've got episodes that look nice in good things. Like, I mean, Heaven Sent, anything that Rachel Talalay directed of Doctor Who, Stephen Moffat's era, those are all very good-looking episodes. But I don't think people really come away talking about how they looked. I think what they do is realised in a good way, rather than just that be the focus. Like, oh, have you seen Heaven Sent? It looks really good. Like, no,
not really.
It's yeah.
If anything, the editing is fucking fantastic in that episode.
No, it's true. But like that, to me, that's all. It's bringing to life great stories and great scripts that is important. Like,
it is the case that it's very pretty. Do we need to be making it pretty though? Can we make it good first?
There you are.
Can we make it good?
The source material needs to be good before you even consider the visual style, etc. If those stories coming in aren't amazing, then you're not going to have a chance. And speaking of that, I'm doing creative writing right now, so I actually looked into who these writers were coming in for the Chibnall era, and for the most part, a lot of them were first-time writers at the BBC, or they'd been working on like BBC Three's online wing, or maybe BBC Two type thing. So the point is, they weren't really sci-fi writers or people familiar with Doctor Who for the most part. And it sounds elitist when I say it, but I feel like in your pool of writers there should be a few people who are either from the past eras of the show, or maybe even from Big Finish's team. I feel like that knowledge of the show is kind of important at this point.
Yeah, possibly. I don't think that when I'm thinking of like who should write. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a huge knowledge of hundreds of writers that have worked in British television, but I think to me, what is most important is the kind of tone and style that they bring to it. You know, I'm thinking like as far as showrunners go, what I'm really hoping for is someone that's done like comedy dramas instead of just dramas. Like I don't just want someone who's done a really gritty crime drama like Broadchurch or Happy Valley or something that's like bleak and miserable. And then
I feel what they tried to do is make a lot of safe decisions with this recent series.
I just think the fun needs to be there, and you need writers who have kind of, and I think like Moffat and Russell T Davies, they're good drama writers, but I think they had a basis in the comedic, and I think that's why people were so on board, is because it was just fun to watch.
Yeah,
their doctors
of all things should not be afraid of being camp.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, when you're looking for people to take over, why would you go for the guy behind Broadchurch? Like, I think that's like the least camp, least fun show I've ever watched. Very good drama, but not what I'm looking for, and clearly not what the general public are looking for.
Have you actually seen Broadchurch, Josh? It's good.
I've seen a few episodes here and there. You know it's not my cup of tea, that kind of TV, but...
No, it's very good. Very good at what it does. I watched it all on a plane, which was intense. But
Jesus, that's a long flight.
Went through every episode, and so I think when Chibnall was announced, I was like, I like Broadchurch. I didn't really kind of think I like Broadchurch, but that's not what I want from. And obviously, the Chibnall era is not Broadchurch. Like, it's not that bleak. But I also don't think it's much more fun. No. So I don't think you need the biggest super fans or the biggest Doctor Who experts on the team. I think you need people who are good at characters and are good at fun and humor, I guess.
But hearing
because
I was going to say hearing that sounds like you want. No, I'm so sorry. More humor and more, I guess, like family oriented stuff.
Range,
right?
Range rather than just making it.
Yeah. I don't think it needs to be a comedy.
No.
But I think it needs to balance the kind of fun and the serious a lot better than it has been doing. Because I think I don't really take either of those aspects very seriously anymore. Like I don't think the show has kind of offering that level of kind of balance. And I think every great writer for Doctor Who, at some point, it was their first time writing for Doctor Who.
Yeah,
and I think it's a shame to kind of limit yourself to kind of old hats. But at the same time, you can't just get in first-time writers who've never written anything and then hand them the reins to, one of 8 episodes in a year,
And with that, I suppose you have an idea of what you'd like this next series to be. I'd love to hear if you have a pitch or your series of ideas of what the next series of Doctor Who would be.
How are you solving Timeless Child, basically?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I was hoping Chibnall would be around for a bit longer so that he himself would have to deal with it, and then he could leave the show in a place where that just doesn't need to be a consideration. But the fact he's going after a few specials and like 8 episodes, like I don't know how that will be left, and I feel like it will be up to the next show when I make a call. But I mean, I can't believe I'm saying I wish Chibnall was around for longer. I think Joe Martin should be the 14th Doctor, and I think that would, to be honest, not only do I think she'd be good, which I do. I've made a whole video talking about how good I think she'd be. I also think you could put to rest a lot of those Timeless Child threads by just having her there and just being like, oh no, I'm actually from the Doctor's future. I was tricked or whatever. And I think you could then incorporate that in a way that doesn't feel like a retcon, but also move forward instead of backwards. And I think that it would be a good way of kind of acknowledging that part of the show's history, like the Timeless Child, because that is unfortunately now going to be part of the show's history forever. But at the same time, I think what's so stupid about that twist is that it's all about the past, and that there's no focus, like there's no impact going forward about what that's going to do. So I think that I'm sure there are ways that you could kind of bring in Jo Martin and have her be the Doctor. I think it's unlikely now, because I think that's an incarnation that Chibnall created, and I was expecting him to, maybe see it through. But with that gone, I assume whoever will take over won't pick up those threads. But if I was taking over, would.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. I feel like it was nailed on that Jo Martin would be the next Doctor had Chibnall stayed around. Yeah. I don't see it making an awful lot of sense for another showrunner to make that choice, because it's almost...
No.
Yeah, I would like it. I think in those few scenes that she is in the show, she feels better written, better realised, better acted than Jodie's Doctor does.
Yeah. How difficult is it?
I just think she's incredibly well cast.
Yeah.
I just think, I don't think the script is that much better than what Jodie's being given. And to me, it finally, set off the alarm bells that a good actor in that role probably could have made it work better than Jodie was. And so I think it's a shame that we'll probably never see that Doctor again. Yeah. So for a few cameos in the upcoming series.
Don't worry, we'll get the War Roof Doctor in Big Finish in like a year's time.
She'll jump over to Big Finish. She'll snog River Song. It'll be fine.
That's how it works.
That's the pipeline. The former Doctor to Big Finish River Song snogger.
The rumours are Jodie's already in talks to do Big Finish, so maybe that's something to look out for in the future.
I am looking forward to Jodie going to Big Finish, based on a simple fact that she can actually get good episodes then.
Yeah.
Every single Doctor has gone to Big Finish to be redeemed, and it's always worked.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't have a huge Google Docs pitch for the show, but... I believe you do.
Looking at what you're saying, so if you were to bring it back then, so we're talking villains, we're talking writing team, what would be the direction you take with them?
I think villain-wise, you kind of need to
do... The Veroids, finally!
I mean... I am very critical of a lot of things that Chris Chibnall did, but I do not think that the idea of no returning villains for Series 11 was a bad one.
Okay.
I think the replacements needed to be better.
Yeah.
We needed, I like the idea of a whole series of brand new threats, but at the same time, when the threats are crap, then that's nothing. As for returning characters, I personally think that some what I think the show has been lacking as far as villains go is ones that work with time. It's a time travel show, but it's pretty much just the time travel is used to get you to places where regular things happen. There's very little time-based kind of tomfoolery going on. And that's part of the reason that I love the Trickster from the Sarah Jane Adventure. I don't know how familiar either of you are with that character in those stories, but he's unfortunately created by Gareth Roberts, but if there was a way of bringing him back or bringing in someone else
Meddling Monk. Meddling Monk.
Meddling Monk.
In Big Finish, it's played by Rufus Hound right now, and he's got a big twirly mustache. It's great.
Yeah. I think the monk is a bit on the sillier side than the scarier side. I know that is good.
Silly.
But I know, bring silly back. But I think with the Trickster, that is a scary character, and those are scary episodes. And I think to kind of maybe even just copy whatever happened to Sarah Jane as a part of a story, I think would be really cool. I think as far as returning ones, that's the only one for me that's you have to do something like that.
The Trickster really did feel like... And this sounds like such an obvious thing to say, but from that gallery of the ones they introduced in the Sarah Jane Adventures, that felt the most like a Doctor Who villain, and that could easily transfer over, and probably would have had Russell stayed on.
If you ask anyone that's watched Sarah Jane Adventures and says, which villain do you think should come over, everyone will answer the Trickster.
Yeah,
everyone
absolutely.
will answer the Trickster.
The Nightmare
he
Man
plays so well
too,
off David Tennant and the Trickster talking in that episode. You just kind of forget it's Sarah Jane for a bit, because they both feel like they're in Doctor Who, and I think I sometimes forget that he's not a Doctor Who villain. But I think so something like that would be great. And I've made a whole video talking about pretty much that topic, and I think that would have a great impact. Obviously, I think you need to do something with the Daleks, and I don't know what. They're a real pain, aren't they? Those bastards.
I can't imagine anyone enjoys writing for them anymore. I can't imagine.
Mark Gatiss would.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he would.
I'm sure he still loves writing for the Daleks.
War of Allegory, yes.
They'd have the Union Jack on them. Again.
The only time I find the Daleks interesting looking back, really, is when they're tied with Davros. And, like, the stories that they tried to tell in the 80s. Like, the broad strokes of that story, I think, was great. The whole Civil War idea of one Dalek basically getting too big for his boots and Davros not having any of it. I think doing another Civil War would cheapen it.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Everything the Daleks in Manhattan did was new territory. I liked it. Didn't like the pig people, but interesting concept.
They've had Robomen before. Like,
yeah, Ogrons, Robomen.
They're all dumb as hell, but they work.
But I don't. Do you have any ideas of what they could kind of do with the Daleks going forward that wouldn't just be crap and the same?
For the sake,
I do. I'm part
do.
of my big thing that I'm going to explain later.
All right, I'll
maybe look into some of that EU stuff about the Dalek Parliament and how Skaro society actually worked during, when the Daleks were actually in their full power. Maybe something along those lines would be nice, but then does that cheapen them a little when you see them elsewhere? I don't know.
No, I actually kind of enjoyed what was the one this year? Revolution of the Daleks.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun and kind of camp. The Daleks were nothing in them, like they were just there. But I feel like that is almost as good a Dalek use as you can get these days. Is just have them be there while the characters are just having an adventure, and that's just like the fodder.
I think Chibnall got it right with the Daleks that they shouldn't be. They can be big game villains, but they're more for eye-catching specials now, I think, than actual great narratives. Because Moffat, during his run, couldn't get a single good narrative out of the Daleks, I don't think.
No.
And he tried very, very hard. He threw a load of ideas at the wall and none of them stuck. I feel like we're back in the 80s, they are just action set pieces. You know?
And I think maybe that's it, kind of keep them to like special fodder, I guess. Like, have the big army show up, but they're not at all the focus. Like, nothing of interest is going on in Resolution or Revolution.
They'll definitely be in the 60th. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably like some legal thing at that point. I think it's actually a legal thing that they have to have in a Dalek in every episode of every season of Doctor Who. I'm not sure, but I think it is a legal thing.
There was a rumor that was part of the contract with the Terry Nation estate, but I've heard people say that it's nonsense, and I've heard people say that it's true, and like there are certain things that kind of back it up, that they'll just like drop one in Wedding of River Song just to kind of tick off Series 6.
Yeah,
it may just like as a kind of cultural thing that it's important to have them every now and then, but I don't know if that's legal or
I wouldn't be surprised if the BBC mandated it. Not the Terry Nation estate thing. I reckon the BBC go to them every single year and say, you don't have to have them in a story, but have them be a part of the iconography of this series somehow.
That makes sense.
Probably a good show.
That's because I think, it's whether or not this is possible, I think it would be good to not see them again for a while. And then, I don't know how many times you can bring them back and be like, oh, they're back, but at the same time, like...
You're going to hear my idea, and You're gonna.
I'm so excited.
I'm just building this up and building this up. I'm so sorry.
I'm just working through what I have to say about, I've just kind of vague ideas, and I'm just going to hear yours, and I'll feel so embarrassed. You'll have thought everything through. I'm just like, maybe you could get rid of them, but
can we film my bit again? Can we film my bit again, please?
Yeah, just go back. I've changed my mind. And as far as other villains, I think I would rather, and this kind of goes to tone as well, and not to structure as well. I think the Monster of the Week, Story of the Week structure is important. And I know people want it to be serialized, and I know we're actually getting serialized stuff next year. This year for Series 13. And I really hope that is a COVID necessity and not the new norm as mandated by the BBC. They're not looked at, the Marvel shows and they're like, okay, that's what we're doing now. Because that's not what Doctor Who is. And I think as much as I like kind of long form kind of storytelling over a number of episodes, I don't want that to be Doctor Who. Because to be honest, I don't think Doctor Who would do it very well. No. And I think you get Doctor a lot more variety.
Works when it's like a very loose kind of almost anthology thing. With Doctor connecting all the stories as it goes on.
I wouldn't mind a few two-parters. I wouldn't mind kind of 2 or 3-parters to kind of get a bit more depth out of each story. But I think setting out to make one series a whole storyline, I think is a mistake. And that's why I think, as far as arcs go, story arcs across the whole thing, I just don't have much interest in that. And I know it's necessary now to get people to tune in next week. But I had no interest in
but honestly,
did they not even do it much? Yeah, they had a bit with when the vault in series 10 of just who's in the vault, and then it's 6 episodes in, it's it's Missy. Okay,
and that was it.
And then it became
the crap in season 5.
Yeah, and then all of that stuff in series 6. That's when it went off the rails, and I think that's actually kind of interesting in series 6 in a weird way. What they're going for, it's creative, it's messy, but it's cool. But then all the stuff with Russell T Davies, people say, why can't we have the good arcs like that? And the arcs back then were just one person every week saying fire hydrant, and then the next week someone else would be like, oh, have you heard about the fire hydrant estate? And it's just building up just nonsense every week. And it's just it's one word or one phrase in posters or names or whatever.
Vote
and
Saxon,
it's not good. Yeah, Vote Saxon, Torchwood, Bad Wolf, the Dr. Donner,
But also, from that era, I would argue that building to a finale never really worked out. You look at Series 3, you look at Series 4. Yes, it did amazing numbers, and yes, it was wonderful to see all those characters together. But the Daleks are defeated with a bunch of switches. There's nothing to that finale, in my opinion.
I mean, it just kind of depends on what you want from a finale.
Yeah, and we all agree we want it to be good.
Yes, that's. But I think that it's do you want? I think it depends on what they're building up. Sometimes they will build up to an enemy, and the payoff will be the personal. And at that point, it's there's a real kind of disconnect there between what you've promised and what you deliver on, which is a shame because what's delivered is often really good. And I think just let episodes happen. I don't know. I know finales need to be bigger, but I think building to them for ages,
going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, you're gonna hit the roof at some point.
Yeah,
I think.
How are they gonna one up that ever in the show's history ever again? Is Doctor Who just over now?
Yeah, they're going to remake Longbarrow shot for shot. That is the next step. That is what we need. No.
That is the natural progression of what we're currently on.
Good lord.
I don't know. I think Timeless Child is a bizarre finale because it feels like the pre-finale exposition dump. It feels like
it's the last episode before the 2-parter.
Yeah, it feels like. I mean, in WandaVision, the Marvel show, there is an episode that is very a lot like the Timeless Child, where they look at Wanda's past and they see kind of how she develops. But that's not the finale. That is the dump of kind of retcons and getting all the boring stuff out of the way before the finale can take place. Timeless Child is literally just let's have a chat for a bit, and like, oh, it's such a weird episode. Like, timeless child nonsense aside, the Timeless Children is a bizarre finale.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know how you make a good Doctor Who finale.
Part of it feels like the end of Turn Left, and part of it feels like it's trying to be
No, make no mistake, because that was good.
It was okay.
But I think, I mean, my favourite finale is the Series 10 one, and I've gone on about that for like, I don't know, about an hour and a half on my own YouTube channel. Any chance that I get, I will sing the praises of those stories. And I think that is, I don't know if it's like Moffat trying to go out on a high, or if it's just like, it feels, as big as it can sometimes get, it feels very stripped back, and it feels very character driven. And I don't think, I know pointed in the Doctor, but I still think that kind of giving it such a character-driven focus and then blending that with the kind of action spectacle is good. And I think that is a balance that they should strike going forward.
That felt as close to New Who as that felt as close to Big Finish as New Who has ever gone, because Big Finish has, on average, its stories are a lot darker and a lot more character driven, because obviously everything comes from people talking, and everything's like, oh, but there's a big awesome explosion over there, and the rest is all just character stuff. And the whole the weird, almost I don't know, the weird stuff that they do with reality, like having because of the black hole, like the space was too close to that's a very Big Finish thing, where you have to picture it all in your head of how it all kind of works. And honestly,
it's another
that fantastic as an audio.
It's another time-based threat as well that I'm always looking for, because I think that's kind of untapped potential. I don't think it needs to be like full sci-fi. I don't think it needs to be kind of, intense, hard to understand stuff. But I think you can have fun with those concepts in a way that's still accessible. And I think that's another thing as far as like what I would do as a showrunner. Not that I ever really want to be, but if I had the reins suddenly, I think making it accessible to people is great. I would not structure big story arcs around the fucking brains of Morbius. I think that's just not something that little Timmy is interested in his kind of weekend television. He's behind the sofa, and he's not. I think he's not on the edge of his seat. He's not watching
Doctor Who. He's got
He's playing Lonely Assassin. he's checking all the. He's checking the TARDIS posting memes about the episode as it comes out, because that's way more exciting.
That's how I went through that season.
No, to be honest, a lot of my experience was just like, "Ooh, that bit could be a good meme," and then I'd like spend it like the next 3 minutes like thinking about it, and then I'd just not pay attention to the episode. I think for Series 10, because TARDIS posting started in 2017, just before Series 10 did, I would watch an episode through, and then I would rewatch it and see if I could make any memes about it. But then for like Chibnall era, like if there's anything interesting, that will just it's something interesting to think about while Doctor Who is on TV. So I'll just do it all at once.
I'll tell you how I found out that Jodie Whittaker was the Doctor.
How?
Basically, because it was on the reveal trailers in the middle of the football that was on, so I had the football on. I was like looking up from my phone, because I'm not a football fan. I don't toss.
It was Wimbledon.
Yeah, and I looked up and I saw like a bit of the trailer, and it was very obviously a woman from behind. So I immediately just went back to my phone and said, "That's clearly not Doctor Who, because that's a woman." And then I got a notification on my phone that Doctor Who TARDIS posting had been changed to Nurse Who TARDIS posting. And that's how I found out Doctor was a woman.
Right. That was back when you could change Facebook. You could change Facebook group names for like an hour. You could change it for like a day.
And that's it. Now it's minutes.
Now it sticks for 28 days, so you can't really do funny jokes like that. Yeah, that's really funny.
The fact that I'd actually like seen it, I was like, no, it's a woman, that can't be it.
So dismissive. Oh. No,
that's awful.
I wouldn't even want.
But I think, as far as like male or female Doctor, I think whoever the next Doctor is, I would personally like to see a woman in the role again.
Okay.
I think
You kind of have to at this point.
I think you kind of have to. I think if you don't want to send the message of, well, that didn't work out, we're going back to normal. Sorry, guys, we went woke and we've gone
we gone broke.
Yeah, like I think that would be admitting defeat in a way, and I can't imagine the response from the worst side of the internet. Just like, yeah, we did it.
Would have a field day.
He would. He'd be like, we did it, everyone. And then that would empower them going forward. No. And I think
the Ian Levine, Gareth Roberts, all out in the street, like we've just won the football.
They have Not My Doctor street parties for months, and I think so. I think and also it'd be nice to show. And I hate to just dunk on Jodie more, but it'd be nice to show that a woman could do it well, because it's entirely possible. And I think I saw someone suggest Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and I wasn't sure if they wanted her to be showrunner or doctor, and I think she would be fab as both. But obviously not both because she would die, but either. And I just think that you kind of need someone with that spark, and that is
pissed them off more. They should have Laura Dern as the new Doctor.
Laura Dern, fit with purple hair, and the first American Doctor, the first Star Wars: The Last Jedi Doctor.
Saran Jones would be my pick if we go for a female Doctor.
That's there's rumours about who the next showrunner is, and it's someone who's worked with Saran Jones a few times. Okay. And so that feels actually very likely.
Yeah. My main pick though would be Patterson Joseph, just because he's wanted the role for so many years.
He would be great.
I think it should be me, and I'm going to tell you my idea. And
okay, well, I can't wait.
Okay.
Patterson Joseph would be fantastic. I think it's very unlikely that the next Doctor will be a straight white man. So I think
thank Christ.
in one of those areas they will change. It will either be a straight white woman, or a straight black man, or a gay white man. I know Ollie Alexander was thrown around a bit after.
I feel like he'd work as a companion more than a Doctor. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, he strikes me as like he'd be a really good companion.
Really good eyes for the audience.
Yeah, and that's something. I mean, I'm actually currently making a video about this, but I think something that I think should happen more, just going forward in New Who, is a companion staying throughout a regeneration. So I know that it's now like tied to showrunner. Yeah. It's done that like if the showrunner stays on, the companion will, and if the showrunner leaves, it's a complete blank slate. But I think carry someone over, let them be the audience insert as the Doctor changes their face.
Only happened once, hasn't it, in New Who with Clara?
Rose as well.
Rose and Clara.
Eccleston,
Tennant. Yeah. I always forget that one. Yeah. I mean Christopher Eccleston.
I think it's a great way of kind of letting people know that they're still watching the same show.
Yeah.
And rather than the kind of every Doctor reset that happens with the audience, where they're like, well, this isn't my show anymore. Or they're just like, I stopped watching when insert Doctor here left. And I think it's a good, I think in both Deep Breath and Christmas Invasion, the companion is it's the audience insert. And they're like, this isn't the Doctor, this isn't my Doctor. And then by the end, they're like, this is the Doctor. This is my Doctor.
Deep Breath's good in that respect.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like the audience really needed that transition and that reassurance that he was the Doctor, and that's what the whole story is. And it ends with Matt Smith ringing up Clara and the audience to be like, "Yeah, that's me," which I think is really meta and really clever. And I think that it helps a lot. I mean, obviously, people still gave up when the Doctor was suddenly old, but
I gave up when they cut off his knob.
But I think yeah. So even if it's just for an episode, like just keep Yaz. If Yaz is there just keep her. I'm sure Jodie Whittaker fans exist somewhere, but just going forward, have the companion stick around for at least one or two stories.
As a narrative thing, I think it would be interesting to see a companion reject the new Doctor. I don't think we've ever really been brave enough. They did it a bit with Perry, but I think, say if Clara had left at the end of Deep Breath when she said she wanted to, I think that would have been very impactful and could have really started a good narrative there for that Doctor.
that would have been interesting. I still think you've run the risk of like the audience agreeing, of just being like, "Yeah, I don't like this Doctor either, Clara," and then just switching it off.
Then they go, "What, Clara? Who?"
Yeah, which is exactly what did happen in the 80s, of course, when the companion doesn't like the Doctor, it generally sort of reflects into the audience.
Yeah, but I think there are interesting things to do, and maybe like a few episodes of an arc or like a big story like that. But yeah, is there anything else as far as like just what I need to hit as far as a vague pitch goes for a series 14?
How many episodes exactly would you make, and what length would they be? No, I'm joking.
I mean, like I said, I don't care as long as it's every year.
Yeah.
Like as long as it's good. But even not that. Just I think people have such short attention spans. There is always a new show, and to leave people waiting for upwards of half, it's not good, and people will move on. That's a long time, especially for children. That is a long time to not be engaging with the brand. And if you see it like that, but it's I think it's important to just keep it in the cultural psyche. Just remind people that Doctor Who exists, even if that's for 5-6 episodes at a time. That's
not bad at all. I'm really eager to hear yours, Curtis. I really am. So
I am as well.
So again, I'll briefly go with what I have, because mine is very, very, very broad strokes, as we were talking before. With me, I don't particularly care about the time slot. I don't care about format. I do agree that it should be on TV a lot more.
And it should be good.
Yeah, of course. Here's how it will be good. Challenge the Doctor more. That would be my big overarching thing, because I think the potential you have in someone who's 1,000 years old and not from Earth, and their moral position in interfering with Earth, and their position generally over life and death. You see it a lot in the show, but I feel like that should be more on the Doctor than it usually is. And I feel like there's a lot of ways you can tell that. And I actually had a few story ideas to sort of explore that. The first one, I thought, the Doctor visits a primitive planet where it's all tribal. There are many different sets of tribes, and they all worship a god that is, well, I say a god, it's actually an alien, an all-powerful alien. And the Doctor's trying to explain this, but who is the Doctor to go against religion, I guess? What's the moral implications of basically stepping down and saying, this is not your god? Because the Doctor does have that power and have that right. He's been to both ends.
Very Star Trek. Very Star Trek. There's a few episodes of Next Gen that focused on concepts like that.
Maybe I should start
do you
watching
have the right if it's for their benefit? Do they have the right? Because you are helping them, but you are also interfering.
Yeah, and it depends. Like, could the alien just be benevolent? And is it the Doctor's own god complex that's kind of operating there? There's a lot you could get into there.
Absolutely.
If you have a good someone to challenge either a villain or a companion.
Yeah.
Just like the Doctor should be challenged from either of those sides.
100%.
And that's just not happening at the moment.
There's no point in having the Doctor not be comparable, I think. I think we agree that the Doctor should be a passive character, to a degree a reactive character. But there's a point where the moral implications of the Doctor being there need to be looked at. And we don't get any of that with Jodie. I hate using the word Mary Sue, but Jodie's Doctor doesn't really feel like she's ever felt the consequence of anything, really.
No. And I know a lot of people throughout that era who like that. Like, it's building to something. Yeah. She keeps doing awful things. There's a breaking point, and I don't think that's true. I think Chibnall is writing her in these very morally questionable situations, and then just like acting as if she's fine. And I think that what I want is, I don't care that Jodie has been questionable, really. I think the Doctor should be making mistakes and doing things, but it's just that the show acts like she's a saint still. And that is weird.
One of my favourite seasons of Classic Who is season 21. And it's not because the stories are particularly amazing. It's that the narrative thread going through them is the Doctor always tries to find the best way. And he tries to be a good person, yet massacres happen around him. And sometimes he has to be complicit to these massacres. And it builds towards the Sixth Doctor. And that's an arc that sort of pays off. I feel like they started that with Jodie, and it's gone absolutely nowhere in what will come up to 5 years. You know?
No, I absolutely agree, and I think that's a really great idea as like something to focus on.
Yeah.
Well, not but something to like
build in the
shape.
background. You know?
Yeah, and that's like one of the most interesting things you can do with a story arc is make it character driven, make it, serialized character growth rather than saying a random word every episode and then building to the baddies showing up in the finale. But just having to me, the best example of that in New Who is Missy's redemption in series 10.
Yeah.
It's like you see a bit of that every week, but it's not just it's not teasing anything really, it's just happening and it's changing the characters. And I think that's a really great thing that could happen.
I guess as a general thing as well, Jodie's character, again this falls into that as well, but her character is completely unchanged. If she'd never met Ryan, if she'd never met Yaz, if she'd never met Graham, I think she'd still be the exact same Doctor. Whereas maybe Tennant's arc and Eccleston's arc certainly are based around the companions he picks up and the people he meets. There's actually a reason for the stories that the adventures he goes on rather. I don't think there's any of that in this era either. I'd certainly like to see more of it.
Yeah. No, I think it's an important thing to aim for as well.
But yes, that's sort of broadly what I do. I don't know too much beyond that. I can't give you a big story arc right now. I can't do that. I'm not a showrunner. But I would love, again, to see even villains come into that. So maybe sometimes you find villains who are morally in the right or morally questionable, more so on a level than just black and white. Another story idea I had, what if there was a planet that technologically weren't very advanced, or medically
Your webcam throws up a very unflattering picture
Has
of
it?
you.
1 second then, let me fix that up.
I'm sorry.
I was saying, what if there was a planet where medicine-wise, helping people, they're not very advanced and their race is dying out, and the Cybermen come to that planet? Do you think they're really going to turn down the idea of an upgrade or a conversion? I think that would be an interesting one to look at, where the Doctor thinks it's...
people actually complicit in the Cybermen. Yeah.
I think that would be something interesting to look at, because then the Doctor is basically shouting at nothing.
Or something in the future where you've got people actually campaigning for conversion, they want to be converted, something like that. It'd be an interesting. You could do something with that.
I think
make it good.
Yeah, I think make it good. There's a big idea in the Cybermen that yes, they're scary, but are they somewhat necessary? I think that's always kind of been an undertone of certainly the early Cybermen stories.
I believe the canon reason for why we keep getting so many different variations of the Cybermen is the Cybermen are humans' natural next evolution. So if humans go away and go evolve somewhere independently, they will eventually lead to Cybermen, which I really like. That makes a lot of sense. It's
briefly touched on in The Doctor Falls is that the reason there are so many is that they're just inevitable. Wherever there are people, there are Cybermen. And that is it's part of the whole theme of the episode, but it's also just specifically that bit is only touched upon for a throwaway line, and it would be interesting to kind of see that properly fleshed out as a story in itself.
Best bits of world building Doctor Who has ever done.
Oh, 100%.
Very underappreciated line there.
Are there any other villains that you would work in?
I'd love to see. I've spoken. I'll leave them for you. You seem to know a bit more about them. I'd love to see the death of some. I'd love to see them very bravely kill off a few bigger villains for good, or show us their ends. For instance, I would love to see Davros's death. Sort of what we got in The Witcher's Familiar, but done properly, and have it actually be his end. Yes, but
that was so close to one of my favourite fucking episodes of the entire... Are we allowed to swear in this?
Of course.
Okay, that was Witch's Million was so close to being one of my favorite episodes, and then it was just ruined at the end of it by it just being another Dalek plan.
Yeah.
That was going to be so. A scene of like the Doctor and Davros sharing a laugh as Davros dies.
That's it.
Ooh, so close, man.
Something in that does resonate with me, and I think, what if there was a planet where they specialised in end-of-life care? Or that's what they were known for. Maybe not the entire planets and all that. But the Doctor is sent a request to go to this to be someone's final visitor. And it turns out it's Davros. He would want Davros killed, but they have a duty of care. And maybe even people of the planet are protesting, etc. But possibly the worst person in the universe is just sitting there getting pampered, pretty much. But the Doctor can't really do anything about it. Chibnall's end of life, sure, yeah. I'm at the end. Oh, no. But I think those sort of stories would make the Doctor wouldn't be the villain in these, but he would almost have his own expectations subverted, and it will put him in a much more difficult place than they've ever really been.
There's always potential to do a lot of very interesting moral stuff with the Doctor that I feel they really don't touch on enough, because he is coming from a completely unique perspective that no one else can really relate to, you know?
100%. We don't...
I like...
Go on.
I was just going to say, I like that all your kind of ideas for villains and everything, it all feeds back to the impact that has on the Doctor. And I think that's a really great way to kind of look at it. It's not just like, how are these villains going to be scary in this one moment?
Yeah.
It's more, what impact is this going to have on our main character? And I think that's an interesting and, I think, valuable way of looking at things. That, you know, rather than just kind of, what will the one story be? It's more like, how will this story and everything else change the guy, the main guy?
That's what I'd love to see more.
What if the Doctor saw that clown that only appears to gay people?
Oh no.
That would be a real dilemma.
In terms of other villains, though, I don't really have stories to go with them. There's probably, give it a few years before you use the Master again, but there's more you can do with the idea that Moffat was going for. That you can try and bring the Master back to good. I think there is something that can be done there.
Would you recast the Master?
100%. I feel like with every era, I feel like part of the charm of the Doctor changing is the Master changes as well now at this point.
I think going forward for a bit, I think I wouldn't mind seeing more of the current Master. I don't like him very much, but I think that what's interesting is that I think John Sims' Master in that Series 3 story is so specific to David Tennant and End of Time as well. They match each other's energy so well. Missy and Capaldi is such a perfect pairing of kind of Michelle Gomez. Like, that is a really great kind of thing. They're both, like, you know, both kind of older Scottish people that are kind of eccentric, and it's great, and like they're so specific. Jodie and Sasha, like that there's nothing. They do not match each other's energy. They don't have any. And I think that this Master is generic enough that you can just keep him around for a bit longer. Maybe. I think he can be a bit like the kind of Anthony Ainley going forward, of just like just he is the Master for a bit, and sometimes he'll be good eventually, because I think there's something in that performance that could be more enjoyable than we're currently getting.
Yeah.
And
oddly enough, I like him more in The Timeless Children than I do in his introductory story. I can't even remember what that's called.
Yeah.
But I think in that story he's given moments that are really nice. Like the whole idea of, all my life I thought I hated you because you thought you were special, and you were. I think that's very Master. I think within that fucking horrid mess, there are decent moments in there like that.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say I don't like him, kind of out of principle, because I really, really liked the ending that the Master had in Doctor Fall.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think if that was the last that we ever saw of the Master, it would have been a perfect way to, you know, like at the end of their life, they turn and finally join with the Doctor, but they can't have that, so they kill themselves instead. I think that is just so much poetic justice that I think, or at minimum, not use the Master for years and years. You bring them back the next season, literally like the next season. It kind of,
As I say, like, I feel like you shouldn't be scared to show the end of certain characters' lives because it can have an impact on the Doctor. That's why I want Davos's end to actually be shown on screen.
Yeah, I think I feel like I have a level of detachment to the Chibnall era that I still kind of consider that Series 10 finale, End of the Master. It's not that I don't consider Chibnall Who canon. I just don't really consider canon at all. But it's just like, to me, that's such a beautiful end to the character.
That was the last Master story. It would have been so well. The same with Witcher's Familiar. If that had actually ended up being Davros's end, and then that was the last episode that you ever saw Davros in, that is utterly gorgeous for both of them.
I think I can still appreciate both to an extent for their own individual merits, rather than the kind of what they had going forward. Obviously, they kind of bottle it at the end of the Series 9 opener, but I think my opinion on that Series 10 finale just is not changed at all by the fact that the Master shows up again. And my opinion on that Master, I just think, it's the Master again. We've had the beautiful, character-focused story, and now it's just the Master. And I think there's something to be said for the Master just being in episodes that are not Master stories.
Yeah.
Like the Roger Delgado years of it just... I mean, like a lot of the Master in Classic Who, it wasn't... We've got a big Master story where the Master is everything, and we're going to get the Master. But it's more just like, oh look, other aliens are invading. Other aliens are invading, and the Master's just there, and it's just fun. And I think that the current Master could be quite good in that role. I think he could be quite good of just kind of popping up in the middle of another adventure to just make things worse. And I think that would be a really fun use of the character, rather than what's constantly being used of he is the finale level threat.
Yes,
that does nothing and means nothing, and nothing can happen to him.
One thing we should all agree with right now.
It should be good.
That we can agree with, but the Master and the Cybermen as a team-up needs to stop happening in fucking finales.
It's so weird that is a thing that is always happening.
3 times.
Fuck yeah! What the hell?
Yeah, 3 times.
They're like a double act now. It's rare that you'll have one without the other these days, which is really strange.
Considering the only interaction they ever had in the classic series was in the 5 Doctors, when he's like, cross this way.
Realistically, the reason though is because the BBC hates the Cybermen. They do not think that a Cybermen story can be supported on its own. That's why the Cybermen basically completely vanished from being main villains all the way up until Capaldi's final.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm convinced that was only because of insistence from Capaldi.
100%.
Yeah, the BBC do really not like their Cybermen for some reason.
God, I think it's because they are an 18-plus type villain in a kids' show. I think they're very worried.
At their best are kind of body horror,
Yeah, I think that at the core they're just worried about what the writers are going to pitch for the Cybermen, which is sad because the Cybermen are possibly one of the best concepts ever in terms of...
I prefer Cybermen way more than Daleks.
No, they're just incredibly, like, there's so much more interesting, and there's so much more you can do with them
interesting, but they have
on a conceptual level.
Less good episodes.
That's it.
Like the properly good Cybermen episodes, you could probably count on one hand.
Here's the thing, but also in good stories that aren't good Cybermen stories. So Earthshock is an amazing story, but the Cybermen aren't really the focus of it. They're not really that good in it, honestly. Whereas if you look at Team of the Cybermen's a bit different. Team of the Cybermen is solely focused on them. They're fantastic in that.
Just trying to think of... You'd have to... I don't know. You don't want to... I think you need there needs to be a new Cyberman design in general. I think harkening back more to the Mondasian
creepy ones. I showed you the concept art for what they were going to be. Those ones were horrible. I don't think you have to go that hard on them, but I would like more Cybermen that look more like they're on life support machines, because that's what they were meant to be. And then focus more on the more moral questions and the can we shoot harder than that one can shoot.
Because they look like Iron Men. They look like
they
look like robots
now.
Robot Iron Man suits that just aren't aren't people.
Especially in the Capaldi's first final, where they could just fucking fly about.
Yeah.
I think Nightmare and Silver is the worst for them being robots.
100%.
They're on the unit plane, and then the Cyberman just appears at the window.
The Chibnall redesign is better than the Moffat redesign, but that's not saying much. That they could do with another redesign.
I like their heads. I like the kind of classic, the return to classic on the heads. They've got weird spikes on their shoulders that just don't fit at all with the rest of the design. It's like
steampunk Cybermen.
The punk, it's really weird.
I literally have to Google them now because I have no idea.
Whilst you do
that, I
like the heads. I like
the heads are good.
They are far too Durasteel, though. I will say.
With villains, though, the only other two, and I have literally no idea, so I just think that they haven't been explored enough, and in one case, one hasn't even been on screen before. I would love to see the Great Vampires from State of Decay come back, just on the basis that supposedly they're Gallifrey's greatest threat. But not the Daleks, not Cybermen, not Centaurans, not anything like that. These fucking vampires. I want to learn more about them, and I want to see Doctor Who go down that route a bit more.
You could do them as kind of like that species, because every show has like that enemy that is that overpowered that if they even enter the fact, like the whole thing is just preventing them from being a thing because they're so powerful. Like the Borg.
Yeah.
The whole point of every Borg episode is just getting us far away and preventing the Borg from happening. Or like the Yuuzhan Vong. Because as soon as it comes to like an actual fight between them, it's over. No chance. The whole episode is not getting to the fight.
Yeah.
And I don't think Doctor Who really has that. It was the Time Lords for a while in New Who, and I think they've nerfed the Time Lords now.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they could work in that sense. And the other one is Faction Paradox from the Virgin New Adventures and stuff. They'd be hard to do on TV because they're essentially time-travelling terrorists. But there's something in there that they just want to cause chaos to every moment in history. And if you got... Yeah. he's the leader, mate. If they want a good story... I think if you can get someone who can deal with a time-travel story... And Doctor Who doesn't like going to multiple points in the same story. If you can do one like that, then... absolutely have Faction Paradox be the villains of it. Have them be a recurring villain too. They are someone I can see being part of an interwoven storyline across multiple stories. But other than that, that's my ideas. Curtis, I know you're bursting. Get going.
No, so if I became the showrunner, literally tomorrow, the very, very, very first course of action I would do, the first thing I do as the official Doctor Who showrunner is cancel the show. Cancel the show immediately.
Okay.
Take it down, take it off air for a good few years. Like we've had Classic Who, we've had New Who. It's time for the third iteration of the show. This is something different. And literally, you take it off the air for a good 5, 10, maybe 15 years. Let people get nostalgic for it. Let people miss it. And then after that, so obviously, because this is like talking far into the future, I can't say anything for like writers and anything. I know I'd like to get a lot of Big Finish writers in because they are very good at doing the more character-driven, very serialized episodes. No, the very Monster of the Week episodes, where it's just a self-contained story on its own. And yeah, I agree. I think we need a lot more of that.
Mark Platt would be perfect for that, I reckon.
I'd like Mark Platt in. And yeah, then you bring the show back later on, and this is like where I'm actually going through the plot. So the kind of opening bit of that would be a mysterious traveler arrives in the modern day, drops dead, instantly regenerates, and it's like a young woman. So it's a bit ambitious. It's a bit ambiguous. You don't know if this is specifically the Doctor or not. And then the young woman kind of like breaks into this nearby house to kind of access a phone and stuff. And then the person whose house it is comes home. And meanwhile, at this same point, Unit has just... So we're bringing back Unit. And this is specifically Unit ran by Brigadier Benton, because you want someone in there to make the fans happy. This is something that gets classic fans on board But if you don't know who they are, then that's fine. So it's run by Brigadier Benson. They're like, right, we've just had a serious time vortex detection thing. We don't know who this is. It's probably the Doctor, though. Let's go find him. And then they go and they capture the two people, the time-traveling lady and then the person who is going to become the companion, even though they're not complicit in it. I think that would be a cool dynamic to have someone that becomes Doctor's companion accidentally. Yeah, like they were arrested together and now they need to break out together. But then after they take them away, another time vortex things happens and Robomen turn up from Dalek invasion of Earth.
Jeez.
Because it's kind of revealed at this point that the person who came time traveling was Susan. And Susan, like at the point of where she was left off by the Doctor, she had a happy life there. But then the Daleks came back, and kind of the whole life that she built for herself there, the family that she built for herself there, has now been destroyed. So in trying to get back to 1960s, she's ended up using like a one-use time vortex, end up in the modern day, whenever this would be. And yeah, they are then being pursued by the Robomen. And at this point, I pictured this entire first season. So it's not got the Doctor in.
Okay.
And it's not got the TARDIS in either. So you are detaching some very fundamental things for what you always associate with Doctor Who. And the format that this would take is basically them kind of hitchhiking across space and time. It's very inspired from Tom Baker's early season, where he was kind of, you know, through Genesis of the Daleks, where he was being sent here, and then he'd get a transport to there, and then teleports from there to there between the episodes. So you've removed the TARDIS.
A great setup of like moving between stories, like kind of it would connect them all in a great way, and like. Yeah, I think they should definitely do something like that again. So,
and you'd really feel this, like it's a case of like at one point they hijack the Robomen's time machine, but then it breaks, and then they end up in the future, and then they end up having to get a spaceship across the planet to Earth, and then they end up at Earth, but they're in the Cretaceous period. But it's okay. The Silurians are there. Then they end up going into stasis and sleeping under the Earth for millions and millions of years, and that kind of higgledy-piggledy jump, but it will still have the same Doctor Who appeal of basically just anthology episodes. Like they're very, very separated episodes that are not related to each other, apart from the fact that it's got the people jumping around. Because here's the thing, I fundamentally think that Doctor Who, like the Doctor and the TARDIS, are not the main characters in it. They are just a storytelling plot device to be able to set up the actual act. Like the episode only really starts when the Doctor leaves the TARDIS. And I want to take that and pump it to the absolute extreme. And so as the series carries on, they end up encountering like different people, like hitchhikers across the universe. And the whole thing, like the whole like series arc would be, because it would have a loose series arc, is basically when the Daleks came back and reinvaded Earth, they came back everywhere. At this point in the future, the entire galaxy is kind of under control of the Daleks. And so as a result, everyone's kind of in the same situation as Susan, where they're all completely all over the place. But as they're like sharing like a campfire with strangers, they hear the folklore about the Doctor, who is this big, amazing, like space Jesus figure. Yeah, it's kind of it's taking what the new show has turned him into, and still kind of referencing that, and still kind of keeping him canon with that.
Okay.
By having this Doctor as this amazing figure that will turn up one day and save him. You know, this is obviously inspired by maybe their ancestors were background characters in an episode of 60s Who, or something akin to that. And so this all carries on, and Susan and this companion end up hitchhiking across the galaxy, doing what they can to help out, but not massively. And they're always kind of going after this idea that Susan is looking for the Doctor in this. She's looking for her grandfather to get his help with the new Dalek invasion. And this all kind of culminates into the last episode of the first season, when they finally do actually find the Doctor. And it's on the planet Trenzalore. And you see the big giant TARDIS, where the TARDIS has kind of grown out of its shell. And then when they meet the Doctor, he has retired at this point. He has no idea about the actual Dalek invasion that's happened all across the galaxy. He has no idea about this. But the Doctor is played by elderly Paul McGann.
Ooh.
So suddenly, it's a bit... People don't quite know what's canon, because you could take that as, right, oh, so this is just a continuation of the classic series. But you could also have it as like, well, no, because this is Trenzalore, and there's been stuff referenced from the new series. The Doctor can revisit... Basically, it's designed to keep both fans happy. And as it goes on, the Doctor kind of says, look, I am old. Okay, this is... I am like at the end of my regeneration thing. I physically cannot do much now. And even if I was to come out and try and help, I genuinely wouldn't be that good at it anymore. But you, on the way of trying to find me, have consistently been the thing that so many people have thought that I was. And then the show would kind of take a Batman Beyond kind of aspects, with Susan being the new Doctor, but with having the old Doctor as like an ever-present figure in it. But he's not able to do much, and so he's there to kind of offer the moral advice to that degree. And yeah, that would be my setup for how to bring back the show. Completely introduce it to new audiences, because you could jump in on this and just see, oh yeah, so it's just a time traveler from the future who's looking for someone. That, so long as you understand that as a basic premise, you're going to understand the plot line fine. But it's also got a hell of a lot of stuff for the classic series fans, where it's elevating this Doctor to this almost like godlike status, while not actually holding him to that. And it's obviously doing the whole, so you get to have the actual male Doctor, but now you've also got a woman being the Doctor as well. So it's keeping both like the left wing and the very right wing fans happy in that regard. Two birds with one stone, by letting them have both Doctors be valid. And every single episode in this, you don't have a single Doctor Who monster. The closest you get is the Robo-Men.
Okay.
Because this is all building to, like, the idea would be the Daleks would be a big main villain in the second season.
Yeah.
So you've got a full season of building up the Daleks to actually make them scary. But in everything that's coming beforehand, it is all just unique monsters. You know, you're not going to get Daleks or Cybermen, anything akin to that in this. I think even in the Silurian one, the Silurians are in it, but they're not the main focus of it.
Okay.
And yeah, that would then carry on to like a second season, which has actually got Susan now taking on the mantle of the Doctor, trying to kind of gather forces to be able to take down the Daleks. And this one is a complete flip of that, where the entire second season would be just returning monsters.
Okay.
There wouldn't be a single new monster in this. Now it's completely, it's kind of, look, we've proven that we can function without having to use the old monsters. Now we're just going to use it. But it would be like the Yeti and the Ice Warriors, and not the very, very commonly used ones.
Okay.
Because at this point, they've kind of proven that they are capable of working without just relying on them. And yet, in general, it's a very different version of Doctor Who. And it's designed so, like, you know, people can like the classic show, people can like the new show, and this is something different, while having enough there that it could make both fans happy. But if you don't like the show, you could also just ignore it as well.
Yeah.
Because it would very much be a kind of... The closest thing I can relate it to would be kind of a Batman Begins with hints of The Last Jedi. Obviously, Luke goes away and it's kind of in disgrace, whereas this would be a more... He goes away because it's his natural time for retirement now. Like, as you were saying, like, this is... You know, we all know the Doctor's not going to be doing this forever. So let's take him to that point. Let's take him to... He has reached the end of his natural life. And he's beekeeping now. He's retired on Trenzalore. He's had no idea what's happened. He's only now seeing the absence that the effect that his absence can do, and he can't do much to stop that himself, but he can help Susan at least with it. And it would be good.
Would it?
Oh, that's what's important, isn't it?
Yes.
So, I find that interesting. I wonder. I don't know whether it'll be by design, but I do wonder if the show will take some time off, get a cancellation at some point, and then be brought back to life. Nostalgic.
Yeah.
Which I think is a real important point, like, because people are currently nostalgic for the David Tennant era. That does not make them want to tune in to the current show. If they were all nostalgic for a show that no longer existed, they would probably be more likely to. I think I'm just looking at, I don't know, people are I don't know, getting to an age where they're incredibly nostalgic for like 2006 television, which is very strange.
So weird.
But I just see like TikToks go completely viral that talk about like Doomsday and and Rose and all that, and I'm just like, wow, we're at the point where that is a long time ago.
Ages old,
and that's
it?
I'm talking like cancelling the show, letting it sit, and then bringing in a whole new creative team to kind of reinvent it and say, look, let's make it accessible for new audience. Let's make it a jumping on point. So if you've never seen Doctor Who before, you can jump on this and you can enjoy it fine. But if you're a fan of the old show, of New Who, or of both, there's a lot here in not just the the references, because I would love to have like Brigadier Benton and a bunch of stuff like that in it. But it would also be fundamentally, I'm taking all of the elements that traditionally are Doctor Who out of the show, but making the episodes everything that Doctor Who was supposed to be. You know, the Doctor Who format, with having that work, but without the Doctor and without the TARDIS.
Yeah,
and
that
making that.
Yeah, making that a plot point with the Doctor saying like, you say you want me, but you've just kind of been me for the last.
I was never this big space Jesus thing, but you've done a pretty damn good job of it.
I think working that in is kind of like challenging the norm, and then suddenly being like, no, this is the norm.
Because it has potential to be the best of both worlds, and that it'll keep both kinds of fans happy. It gets to keep the Doctor at this big, mysterious figure that you want him to be, while also giving the new Time Lord, Susan, more than enough time for herself as well.
And it would be a great way to actually look at Susan, because I think we're all in agreement that as iconic as she is and wonderful that she is in glimpses, we didn't actually get that much about her in the show.
Susan is absolutely adorable. I won't have a single bad thing said about her. Susan is very often grandfather, my ankle. Yeah.
I can't stand Susan. It's so annoying because I think she's such an important part of the show's history and such an interesting figure in the Doctor's life. Having that be a granddaughter has huge implications.
And they just do nothing with her.
And then, could you imagine if she didn't exist and then they introduced a Doctor's granddaughter in like the 80s? That would be huge. Yeah. But the fact that she's just that's just how it is. That's the setup of the show in 1963. It's annoying because I think, what's her name? Vicky. I just think she's good Susan, but she's so much less interesting from like a canon perspective. Like she's, I think if I don't know if it's the writing or the casting, but if they were swapped.
I am utterly convinced that they almost brought Susan back in season 10 or season 9, because for the first time ever, the Doctor, season 9, the Doctor was traveling with 2 Coal Hill school teachers. The only person missing from that is Susan. And, this is Capaldi, and he is pushing for a hell of a lot of the old stuff to be included. He was the reason why you got the picture of Susan on the desk. He's the reason why we got the Mondesian Cybermen. I'm convinced that at some point on the table, there might have been a plan. I don't know how, but a plan to bring Susan into that dynamic in that season.
I mean, I know you get a lot of New Who characters, New Who fans that are calling for Susan's return, and people that don't really know Susan at all are desperate to see more Susan.
Yeah, have to bring back Susan, funny. But completely redo her character. And this would be a good... for the way that I'd specifically have this is like, when that person arrives, like in the first episode, that's Carol Ann Ford, and you bring her in for a cameo to kind of honour her, but then have her regenerate into a younger but a similar person, but someone who's a lot more independent, because Susan is a child in the show. Like, she is I don't think she's the youngest companion he's had. That's probably Rose, actually. But she is by far the most childlike of any of the companions.
I think Victoria was like 14.
Yeah, good point, actually.
But I mean, she's a lot more independent than Susan Foreman. It's like,
with this as well, Curtis, something I'd be very interested to see is And they've explored it a bit in Big Finish, but her relationship with the Doctor after not seeing her for so long. Would you have that be a key point of it, yeah?
I imagine she's pretty fucking pissed at him.
Yeah.
Like, she's not only annoyed because her entire fucking family has been killed, and now she's had to hitchhike all across the galaxy, but now she's also seeing the damage that the Daleks have caused across the galaxy, and she's seen all the people that are being made refugees because of the Doctor's absence. Because here's the thing, that is something that the show will have to address eventually, because it isn't an inevitability. One day the Doctor will die or be able to carry on, and so all of this stuff that has been going wrong in the universe will then continue to go on, but without someone to stop it.
That's it.
And that's another thing as well. The Doctor isn't a good character to use anymore because they've been so overdone. You can't do anything new with the Doctor now. So if you do something new, like with the Timeless Child or something, it's going to be, it's either a massive... You have to walk on eggshells when writing the Doctor to try and do... You know, if you're going to delve into their past, or you're going to do anything with their character, you're walking on eggshells to do something either new or to do something that won't piss the fans off. Or, yeah, they're a very difficult character to write for. Whereas I think with Susan, to have her, like, reinvented as a new main character, you can have the kind of... the wonderful mysticism that she had early on, where she was just as, you know, amazed by all of this stuff as the Doctor was. Like, a quite cute aspect to her. And she does kind of have that Time Lord mysticism about her, where you can tell there's a lot more going on behind the eyes.
And all that stuff,
Earthly Child, specifically.
Yeah.
But you've also got this thing with Susan where she'd also be a bit more naive than the Doctor. She'd be like you know, Batman Year One, where, you know, he's making mistakes. He doesn't get it perfect each time. And you could tell that's a story that you can't tell with the Doctor. The closest they get these days is to, like, the regeneration stories, where the Doctor's still a bit wobbly. They're not fully on their feet yet. But there's potential here to have Susan really kind of start off as a much more passive character and becoming the Doctor over the course of a season.
Here's something
which you really can't tell with the Doctor. You really can't tell character-driven stuff with the Doctor anymore, because they either end up having to repeat that same story arc in a few years when people have forgotten about it, or you have them overcome this issue, and then it can never ever be an issue in all of the show's years to come. The Doctor can be a very limiting character in a way that I don't think a lot of people actually realise.
It's definitely true, and I don't think... I don't know, I think there are still probably things you can do. There's nothing that comes to mind for me, because I'm not very creative. But I'm sure someone exists that can do interesting things with the Doctor. But those people are currently not writing the show. And I don't know where they are. But so I guess, either don't do it or find the people that can.
And here's the thing, the Doctor has only really become the main character of the show in New Who. You know, he's always been the linking narrative, and there was definitely... Shut up, Josh. I can see you getting triggered by that. There was definitely bits in the classic series. As you know, with Genesis of the Daleks wouldn't have the same effects if it was just some foul scientist or something. So there's definitely... The focus has always been on him, but you do not need... Here we go. You do not need the Doctor for an episode of Doctor Who to happen. You can swap them out with just any... scientist or revolutionist or just old wise man in general, and it can still, you know, like there's a hell of a lot of episodes where you can just swap out the Doctor for kind of anyone. Like the Ice Warriors, the Doctor doesn't really need to be in an episode. He could have just been any generic scientist. You know, obviously this isn't 100% all the time. Obviously, in stories like Genesis of the Daleks and obviously Trial of the Time Lord, that loses its effect. But if we're talking just the very segmented weekly monster episodes, and this is mainly just in Classic Who. I know it isn't as true anymore, but you don't need the Doctor to actually be in those episodes for it to be an episode of Doctor Who.
I don't think the reliance on the Doctor actually began until the 7th Doctor's era. That's my humble opinion. I think 4th Doctor's era, he's the centrepiece because he's so funny.
Tom Baker's the main draw of the episode, but he's not really the main characters in the episodes that he's in, is he?
He can walk in and out of them as well. Like, and he does quite a lot, actually. Like, he will literally go somewhere else mid-story and come back. You know?
And I think a lot of this is inspired from listening to so much Big Finish, because Big Finish really don't have that much of a regard for canon. They're not tripping up trying to think, okay, right, do we have time to this companion? Because the Doctor only travelled with this companion for like 2 stories before they then regenerate. They don't do any of that bullshit. They're just like, okay, just take some Doctors and just let's tell a good story.
Yeah.
And now let's tell another good story. And another good story. And that's their main focus far more than trying to weave it all into one. Because here's the thing. You can't put Doctor Who on a big spreadsheet and say, this all the way through to this is canon. And if we did, it'd be shit. We like not knowing.
That's exactly what Davis's series on YouTube's about, isn't it? About canon stuff where, like, almost everything that happens in Doctor Who has 2 recounts that are different.
Yeah, like, there's no big stress to put on. Because it is the thing, people do not care that much about the canon. They will pretend that they will, but they are more than happy to fill in the blanks themselves. They enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
You could just set any story up in any, like, again, with Big Finish, they are very, very used to telling the kind of very segmented stories where it's not a big, like, the majority of Big Finish audios, maybe not so much Paul McGann ones, but a lot of the Big Finish audios, you can just open up the website, scroll through them and think, yeah, that one sounds interesting. Yeah. Episode 2 of season 4 of the River Song Diaries. Okay, yeah, I'll just jump in with that.
Yeah.
And you'll probably be able to enjoy that as a very segmented episode, just on a solitary episode on its own. And I think the show needs to return to that. Because here's the thing, like, if I'm watching Doctor Who and my mum comes in and sits down with me and thinks, oh, Doctor Who, I remember that, I'll sit down and watch it. And it's the fucking Timeless Children that's on TV. You know?
Yeah. I did want to ask very quickly, Curtis. With the ground that they've sort of covered with Susan in the EDA books in Big Finish, would you go with any of it?
Maybe I'd have it as a very generic, yes, it all did probably happen.
Right.
We're probably not going to reference it, though.
Okay.
So a very kind of like, if the last you saw of Susan, she was in Dalek Invasion of Earth, awesome,
you can pick it up
enjoy this. But if you've like followed through with like Susan's Time War and After the Daleks, and if you've actually kept up to date with Susan, because that's what everyone wants to do, keep up to date with Susan bloody Foreman, then you could be kept happy with that as well.
Can I say,
literally,
in one continuity, Susan killed the Master? Can I just put that out there to you all? She's the reason
I've played with the idea of, like, in this, I'd also probably bring back, because in this reality, I like the idea that the Time War just didn't happen. And so I would use that to elevate the Time Lords into a very kind of Lovecraftian deity where they're kind of beyond our comprehension. Because here's the thing, the Time Lords are built up so fucking much. And then you actually meet them in real life, and they're just old white guys in sparkly suits. Like, they're really, really... And that's something the classic series did as well. That's by no means something that's unique to the new series, is nerfing the Time Lords. I would like to build the Time Lords up to be this kind of ethereal race that don't even have, like, physical forms. Like, maybe the Doctor specifically chose a physical form when he came to the planet. I don't know. I would like them to be this, literally like a Lovecraftian deity where they are so beyond and advanced than we are that you as a human cannot comprehend what they actually are. The Doctor can. The Doctor is all of that. The Doctor is this amazing otherworldly deity that is so much more intelligent and can experience all of this, but he doesn't want to do that. He'd rather go to the pub. And that's what the Doctor should be. He should be this... He's capable of so many amazing things. If he wanted to, he could be he could be like the Master. He could rule entire civilizations. But he don't want to do that. He doesn't like any of the big snobbery that Time Lords have come to associate themselves. He's kind of, in the same way with the Jedi, with Yoda. He feels that the Time Lords, that they've become complacent. They are not concerned with making the universe a better place. They're just kind of, they've mastered the universe now. They're beyond that, so they don't need to concern themselves with that. And the Doctor doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to be a member of, the most important thing. He just wants to be quite a chill dude. And then that completely talks like, that's very considering then the Timeless Children happened, where they literally made the Doctor the most important person in existence ever. And it's like, the whole reason is he's getting away from Time Lord because he doesn't want to do that. I don't abide by this bullshit of, oh, he was running from something. He was running from the question Doctor Who when he left Galaxy. No, he wasn't.
No.
Susan wanted to check out Victorian France, okay?
Yeah,
that's why they left.
Just bored.
Yes. He was bored and he just didn't want to live the stuffy, up their own arses life of a Time Lord. He didn't want to be all of that. And now the new show has made him, like, beyond that, where he is the single most important... You know what I genuinely think is going to happen?
Go on.
And I genuinely think the show is going to do this. I think it's going to be revealed. The only other way that they can go bigger than what they've already done for Timeless Shelter, I think it's going to be revealed everyone is the Doctor. I mean, it's going to be revealed that every single person that has ever lived is an incarnation of the Doctor. You're laughing. I genuinely think that they're going to do that because it's the only way to go above what they're currently doing. Yeah. And so far, they seem to just gauge good drama as just one-upping what they did last time. I really think that's the way it's going to go. And this, my idea, is a complete subversion of that. Yes, it's taking it back to the basics. And in many ways, it will be very unrecognizable to a new viewer or like a viewer who's only seen the new series. But the trick there is make it good, though.
Make it good?
So then it's kind of a thing of, yes, it is very different. I'm not entirely sure it is Doctor Who, but it is good. So I'm going to carry on watching. And then kind of when some of the steam starts thrown, it does become a bit more like Doctor Who. But yeah, that's my big idea. I've fully thought about this like from a mind game perspective, how I'd...
So in short, you would cancel the show.
Idea.
in short, I'd cancel the show, bring it back, and then make it good.
Okay, I can deal with that.
The only general consensus, you know, with 3 Doctor Who YouTubers, the only consensus we can all agree on is make it good.
It's so easy. It'd be so easy, bro.
We send just a thing round TARDIS posting to get everyone to sign. Just, dear BBC, make the show good. And then get everyone in TARDIS posting to sign that.
Change.org petition. Make Doctor Who good. I bet they legally have to do it. I think, we could get loads of signatures, and they would legally be bound to make it good.
Yeah.
I would want it to be specifically made to give Balstrek a heart attack of anger. Am I okay to say that on air? I think so.
Yeah.
Listen.
It's all satire, it's all jokes, it's all not at all sincere.
It's all jokes. Doctor Who being good. Obviously, we're joking. Don't worry.
No, I do think if it went the most kind of social justice, progressive era the show's ever had, that would be great. If it went full on, everything that they say the show currently is, make it that. Because
Doctor Who is a product of the times, and right now, this is the culture of the times.
Yeah.
So we've got an incredibly conservative era, or neoliberal.
And that's what I'd love with this series, is it's kind of keeping both of the fans happy there, where... So you still get the female Doctor, because this would kind of be Susan by the end of it. She is the Doctor. She's not calling herself Doctor. She is the Doctor. Like, she'd be credited at it by the Doctor.
Yeah.
But it's also giving the very right-wing fans that don't like change, it's giving them their version of the Doctor, you know?
Yeah.
Which you could be arguing, well, should we really be enabling that behaviour? I'd hit back with that and say the BBC needs money. The BBC needs Doctor Who to do well again.
I personally just think there's no pleasing some of those people, that they've kind of got into a mindset where they really enjoy not enjoying things and being angry more than they do having fun with things.
Well, literally, like the reason why we can't use the first take that we did at this interview is because everything that I just said to you, the last guy that we were filming with got so angry and so red in the face about everything that I was saying that the footage was like unusable. Lovely bloke, but my God, I really, really pissed him off with the idea of the Doctor not being the Doctor.
I might even still use the first half of it, because the first half was a nice discussion. You know, we were talking about bits and pieces we'd move around, and then that happened.
What? Fuck it, we'll add him in. We'll add him in right now.
They don't have Discord, I don't think. But one final point I'd love to do. I've put this on at the end as a piss take because we did last time. How would you kill the 13th Doctor?
I've got loads of ideas.
Oh, great. Let's get
you mean in the
With
show?
my bare hands.
Oh, you mean in the show?
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
Can I answer sexually, or is that too dark?
that's rather dark. Have her fall off something, just unnecessarily.
Legopolis her.
She just falls down the stairs.
A crane. Do it. Oh, crane. Full circle. Woman who fell to earth. Have her fall to earth again and die. I think that is Chibnall's idea of poetry, just doing the same thing again. So yeah,
that was genius. That was.
Just have him fall. Have her get up on top of a crane, defeat a villain, and fall off.
In 1 year's time, when the Doctor's everyone's been revealed to be the Doctor, and then the Doctor dies by falling off of a crane. We are coming back to this fucking interview.
Oh God.
I would kill off the Doctor by having her suddenly wake up, and it was all a dream. And she wakes up, and it's Peter Capaldi.
Yawn.
No, she wakes up.
Yawn.
No, she wakes up, and it's Bill Hartnell. Okay, the only canon Doctor. All went downhill after Bill left.
Even Troughton? Jesus. I would.
Now, realistically, I'd
have her be shot in San
answer,
Francisco, bro. Oh, God.
My answer is actually based on a text post that I saw on Tumblr for ages ago. And it was something along the lines of, how pretty would a regeneration look underwater?
Ooh.
With like all the lights and stuff going on underwater. I'm like, ooh, yeah. And now I've always had it as like, I'd love to see a Time Lord regenerate underwater.
That'd be really
That's
cool.
literally it. But then you also get the whole thing that the fans can do of, well, actually, we saw that Doctor go in the water and then a different Doctor get out. There could have been 100 different Doctors in the middle that we can then go off and do spin-offs. We can add Big Finish series in here.
We get a Series 6B this shit. Nice.
Series 13B. It's going to happen.
Time Agent
There's
B.
an underwater... There's an underwater variant version of the CIA, the Time Lords, that are just like, hello, you're going to be sorting out all kinds of Atlantis-themed time travel.
They're doing that. They're actually doing that now. They're doing a new Patrick Troughton based series. You know how they're doing like the third Doctor adventures where they've recast John Pertwee with Tim Treloar. They've got John Coleshaw in as the Brig. And they're also doing the first Doctor Adventures, which is the whole Adventure in Space and Time cast. And now they're doing a second Doctor Adventure story, and it's set with season 6B, which is like a thing that's existed in the fandom for ages. And yeah, it's going to be like Patrick Troughton's Doctor and Fraser Hines basically working as like Time Lord agents.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, canonically where...
The two Doctors happens.
The two Doctors and the 5 Doctors took place in. And yeah, they're going to be like expanding that time. So it's something that they're not pulling it out their arse. It has existed in the fandom before.
Can we just...
But yeah, I think that it's just basically just going to be like the TVA.
Yeah. Can we just discuss that an entire new set of continuity exists because Patrick Troughton didn't get his hair dyed for the two Doctors? I think that's incredible.
I think it's great. He's incredibly based for that. He's incredibly, he didn't care. He looks great in those episodes.
Yeah,
I wouldn't change it. But I think, what's the alternative? The John Barrowman situation where he looks older and older but refusing to age every time we see him. It's just.
Have you seen the Patrick Troughton figure for the two Doctors with the pink eyebrows?
No.
Right, I'm not making this up. For some reason, the figures that they did for him that episode, he's got bright pink eyebrow. I'm going to try and find the figure.
In the episode, he does have orange when he becomes an androgon. That does happen.
What's good about New Who and the Doctor's aging is that we actually, for Matt Smith and David Tennant, you could bring them back when they're old and have a really good excuse for it. Because Matt Smith got old, and David Tennant, there is a version of him out there that got old. So
they've covered all their bases, and I like that.
Yeah, it's clever.
That didn't even occur to me actually. Yeah, you could totally do any story. Like I know what you're talking with Matt Smith. When did David Tennant get old?
In series 3 when he gets aged.
He gets aged up in Series 3, but there's also the Meta Crisis Doctor that is aging like a human in a parallel world.
Okay.
So you could get like an 80-year-old David Tennant, and he'd just be, he would have lived that life.
His English accent still won't be any better. It'll still be crap.
But I think, Matt Smith, you can pick him out at any period of his life on Trenzalore, which is pretty cool.
That would fit really well as well, actually, because at that point he is basically retired.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he wouldn't have to do too much, but you've got a kind of built-in excuse for bringing him back and making him old. You don't have to Series 6B it and make it like, oh yeah, no, David Tennant was, the Time Lords picked him out of the Series 3 finale. They worked together with an old David Tennant for 400 years and then put him back in the year that never was.
And luckily, they don't have to worry about bringing back Christopher Eccleston at all.
And Capaldi apparently doesn't really want to. He has opinions from a fan perspective more than anything else about multi-Doctor stories. He says he's never really liked them, and he thinks that there should be like one Doctor. But he was saying this while he was the Doctor. He was saying just like, I've never, to me, I'm a bit more of a traditionalist in that, but
I think 100% he's going to be one of the first ones that will sign on.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
He'll definitely come back. Tennant definitely come back.
Tennant signed on. Huge I fully believe
Tennant's already back. I feel like Tennant's not left.
No, I fully believe that Tennant's already signed the
Smith
agreement.
Will probably do it.
He needs the money. sorry, Matt. Don't kill me.
Matt Smith, yeah, he'd probably do it. He's not been in much else more. I think the biggest build thing he was in was Terminator Genesis. I think you watched it, and he's not in the movie.
Yeah,
he's in Mobius, Morbius. The Spider-Man-y Sony vampire Jared Leto thing.
Yeah.
He's in the new Game of Thrones prequel series.
Yeah.
He was in Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker, and then he wasn't.
Yeah, they're gonna have him as what was it, young Palpatine.
He was all but confirmed to be in that movie, and then he wasn't. So people think, my personal thought is that he was going to be a new Palpatine, and then the trailer came out with the Ian McDiarmid laugh, and they were just like, shit, everyone's excited about Ian McDiarmid, but we've brought in Doctor Who.
Into the amount of when you look into the amount of stuff that they filmed for that movie that didn't make it in, I 100% believe that they had him.
Like Ian McDiarmid was recording reshoots like in September of 2019 for a December release, which is absurd. Like that is so late in the day, and I fully believe that it was because people freaked out that he was coming back that they were just like, oh god, people don't care about the Emperor when it's not. Which of course they don't, but they should have known that. But yeah, so I think Matt Smith is doing better than David Tennant, kind of acting wise. I mean, he's doing movies where Tennant's doing
TV,
TV like British TV.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Eccleston is more. I don't want to be too optimistic with it, but I think Eccleston could easily come back into the show. His main issues with being in the show was he didn't like the people that was attached to the show at the time.
Yeah,
and they're now gone.
Yeah,
I think he might have a bit more moral disagreements with the BBC. I don't know if they completely line up, but I think we shouldn't cross off Christopher Eccleston.
And I think everything's been pointing more towards the fact it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't think it's probable. I don't think he's probably going to come back. But the fact that he's
dipping his toes.
He's doing, he's doing the conventions. He's doing the big finish. He's being Doctor Who again. Fingers
considering
crossed.
a few years ago, he said that he never wants anything to do with the show again.
Yeah.
Even if you can say that, he just got no work through COVID, so he wanted on anything, and he was always getting calls from Big Finish. Even then, though,
offer him lots of money.
That's entirely possible that he could end up spending a bit of time getting back into playing the Doctor and genuinely end up enjoying it again, and his mind could change. It's shown that his mind can change, and absolute worst case, just throw money at him. He will come back for money. It's from Salford. He will come back for money.
But he said that with Big Finish, that his it's paid work. If they offer him a lot of money. I mean, he did say he felt like a whore doing G.I. Joe and Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
But give him something. Give him a good script and loads of money.
Yeah.
Sorted.
And I still think Paul McGann looks young enough that you're still going to have, for the next about 10 years, you could probably still bring him back.
I think so.
I don't think he should have a series
really
like...
good.
I think that ship has sailed, but bring him back for a story.
I don't think you can do like a separate Doctor Who series also about the Doctor right now.
Yeah.
I think you could do like an animated series with him.
That would be cool.
I think that'd be fucking awesome. I think maybe if you chucked a bunch of money... I think maybe if you chucked a bunch of money at a proper animation studio, not to shit on the animated reconstructions, but if you threw money at like a proper, maybe like an anime studio or something, and either did unique stories there or just animated some of the Big Finish stuff, I think there's definitely potential there to do something. But that's just talking more general anyway. That's just talking. I think Doctor Who needs to be a bit more cross-platform because there's potential for it to be a bit more cross-platform.
Yeah.
Because the best Doctor Who right now, if I'm not, I'd arguably say the best Doctor Who has ever been is Big Finish. Because you are entirely just focusing on the self-contained stories, on the character stuff, and it has all of the same appeal of a book does, where you're imagining everything going on in your head, so it's all, it can be entirely as good or as bad as you want it to be. But the bit that you get that books don't have is you also get the quite talented voice acting as well.
That's it.
So yeah, I think Big Finish is Doctor Who. I think that it's the best Doctor Who content you're going to see, and I think this is my point more so. I think it's the best platform for Doctor Who to tell its stories on, because you're just focusing on the good acting and none of the fact that, this is meant to be an extremely ambitious Dalek spaceship with hundreds of Daleks, and in reality it's like 3 of them and then just a picture on the back of Dalek, just cardboard cutouts, You're not having to worry about budget or anything.
Exactly. In the future, I would love to see Spare Parts animated. I would love to see Jubilee animated. I would love to see all those stories brought to life. I really would. Because they're the best versions of those Doctors, and they're the best stories they ever got. So I think they deserve to have that, There's a comic panel somewhere out there of Spare Parts, and it looks horrifying. Have a quick Google of it.
Let me have a look. Oh, crikey.
Mm.
No, I don't like that.
Ooh. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Very uncomfortable story with very uncomfortable artwork to go with it. But yes.
It's a good story.
Oh, yeah.
Just do that. Just do Spare Parts every year. Just slightly rewrite Spare Parts as the Cyberman story. I don't think we'd get bored. That's my pitch.
And this is, at this point, talking a lot more broad, but I would definitely love to see something akin to that, like an animated Doctor Who show, made by a legitimate animation company, either as a cartoon or as like an anime thing, because you could tell very anthology-driven episodes of that, in that you could just bring back any Doctor with any companion and do like 8 episodes per season and just have one for a different Doctor.
You could almost do like the Big Finish main range, just kind of like you have a few stories with one Doctor, a few stories with another, maybe a couple of like 2-parters.
Yeah.
And that could really, if it was like decent animation and not because I love the reconstructions, but they're kind of difficult to watch. If you did this with like top tier animation, it could be a massive bridge to make some new fans watch the old stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows?
That's exactly it.
I think potentially Doctor Who just needs to be... I think at the moment the BBC are scared to put in the money or marketing or whatever to make it a big thing, because it's not that much of a big thing. However, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of just like, it's not big because they're not making it big, and they're not making it big because it's not big. And like, I think they just need to invest in it. I think I don't think we need a cinematic universe. I don't think we need 5 spin-off shows at once and a Marvel style like that. But at the same time, a bit more of a multimedia component, a bit more of, I mean, that there was that Daleks animated series that I keep forgetting ever existed.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Which I just remembered. But I think they need to do something like that. But I think that's like an experiment that won't pay off because it's crap. And like they'll look at that and they'll, well, people clearly don't like that. And it's like, well, no, they don't because it was crap. But like, you know, if you give us like high quality animation, high quality storytelling in that kind of multimedia format.
The thing is, like, with the fucking budget of actual Doctor Who episodes, you could make like this hypothetical season of like an animated show with all the different Doctors. You could probably make an entire season of that for the cost of one actual live action episode. Because they're spending so much money making it all cinematic and really polished, and you don't got to do that. I would more than happily lose one episode of the new season in exchange for an entire other, like a Netflix or BritBox, probably it would be, like an exclusive series there.
I love it. BritBox needs to be utilised more now that they are actually getting it up and running. I think something running with the show on there would be kind of nice. But I don't know.
I wouldn't mind a behind the scenes thing, like a confidential style thing. If they put that on a streaming service,
I'd
probably pay for it. Like,
once again,
I think I love. I actually, my most recent video on YouTube was bonus features and how that they've become less accessible. Over the years, like when everyone was buying movies on DVDs, you could just watch them.
I did watch that one, and I completely agree, because I remember as a kid, I used to really fucking look forward to seeing the bonus features.
Yeah, exactly. But now,
like, especially with classic Who, I'd watch the episode and I'd be like, yeah, that was okay. Gonna watch the 30-minute documentary now, though, which is so much better. Seriously, anyone listening to this, if this stuff is even making it into the video, I don't bloody know, because we're just fan wanking now. Anyone that owns the DVDs but hasn't watched the like 30-minute documentaries that all of the DVDs have, where it's like a documentary on the making of the episode and stuff, where they get the cast back, watch them, because they're better than the actual episodes the majority of the time. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm ever in the mood for Doctor Who, for like classic Who, but I cannot be fucking arsed sitting through another John Pertwee 7-parter. I'll just put the documentary on about the episode. It feels like I've watched it.
I'd highly recommend the one for the 5 Doctors, one for Genesis. There's so many good ones.
Some great Dalek ones.
Oh yeah. There's a Shawcraft one, which is the company that made the Daleks originally, on I think The Chase. It's a wonderful one on how they designed them, what have you.
The fantastic one about the Cybermen, maybe on Tomb of the Cybermen, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, but I think just more of that going forward. I think that would be a great thing, like bringing back Confidential or something on that level for a Series 14, rather than like a 5-minute YouTube thing at the end of the series or at the end of the episode. Just a great kind of.
I'll tell you what, I will give massive props to, and this again is going in the wrong direction. This is going backwards, but I really fucking love the trailers they have going for the Blu-rays.
Yeah.
If you've seen them.
Yeah, no, they're good.
The trailers for the classic Blu-rays, where they've been bringing back companions and actually like filming a little bit. I mean, Ace's one was really good. Joe Grant's one was a bit cheesy.
That was fun.
It was wonderfully fun. Yeah. I love what they're doing with them, and I want to see more. I would watch a series just on that.
Yeah, no, that's funny, the stuff they're doing with that, like the kind of the effort that's being put into those trailers for box sets of series.
I definitely feel in the past year, realistically, it's probably because the fact that people don't massively like Jodie, but I feel that they have really started to market themselves towards fans of the older show a lot more than they used to do, because you're actually getting like content now for like the first and second Doctors, which just didn't exist before. It used to be a case of we would get one like animated reconstruction every 2 years, I think, and now we're getting 2 fully animated episodes a year. And we're actually getting like action figures out from those times, and like the vinyl releases that they're doing for those for like the soundtracks for those episodes. I think the one thing that I can actually thank the failure of Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who for is the fact that BBC have realised, right, current merchandise is not going to sell for the show. Let's sell some stuff for the old stuff.
Bring in the censor rights.
Yes.
Oh, you see that? We're getting figures for the fucking censor rights and the board.
It's incredible.
Hell yeah! I love the fucking board.
Collection pieces are selling more than anything modern Who could.
The actual mainstream stuff right now. Yeah.
And that's fine.
And in that respect, I'm glad the new show's failing. Makes bullshit, ridiculously niche fans like me that only like the first 3 Doctors. We're finally getting some good fucking content.
It's one of them. The show would sell well if it was good. You know?
That's the takeaway here.
Make it good, please.
Just make it good. I'm sure like that petition idea will work. Get a showrunner who. Yeah.
I was going to say,
you ask them what their pitch is.
You ask people today.
This is actually how the BBC conducts their interviews.
We hope.
Except they do this with like hundreds of different people. Just like, so how would you make the show good? Write that down. God, yeah, put this video on private, or the BBC will fucking see it, and then they'll actually make the show good.
I'd put Skongo in series 14. That's what I would do.
Main overarching villain, please.
Yeah.
I would have Susan regenerate into Skongo.
Oh, that's good. No, because there's always been rumours about that.
Yeah.
60s of whether those two were connected. I have a Skongo.
I'd actually make some of the Skongo audios canon, finally.
Yeah.
I have a Skongo
Joe,
picture somewhere.
whilst we've got you here, is there any update on the tapes for Skongo of the Congo?
Listen, they're in the hands of a private collector. We are we're in conversation with them. We're trying to get them to play ball, but they are making some pretty unreasonable demands. So we'll see how that goes.
Damn Ugandan TV stations!
I don't want to give any false hope, but yeah, they were found. They were found in the desert. But fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we get to see that, because the animation's good, but it's not quite the same.
Josh, the way that you said that, then I really thought, because I could tell you're going to talk about something more personal. I thought you were going to be like, so Josh, while I've got you, why isn't my meme been approved?
Get it out the queue, bro. It's not on. It's not on.
The TARDIS posting queue. What a place.
I can only imagine some of the shite you're going to run through, to be fair.
I mean, I just don't look at it. I've only got 18 pending posts.
Oh. I think I've got 2 pending.
I used to, very, very, very in the early days, I used to be a mod or an admin, I can't remember the difference, for Avatar shipbending.
Oh, right,
and we'd get really awful content like coming in with the queue from that. And I was shouted at because I'd just remove people from the group if they were giving like really shit memes.
That's really
and then they stopped me from being that.
Yeah.
Because I just used to get rid of people.
Wow.
Right. Josh, I believe we've done a good enough content for you now.
I think that is more than enough to make up for the last one. This has been wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Joe. Thank you for joining us, Curtis.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
And
man.
Subscribe to all of them in the description below, and subscribe to me. See you all soon. Bye bye.